Two Wheels this week, I ride a brand new machine with a very old name, a Sachs 650. Richard Hammond rides the very racy Yamaha FZR400, and Wayne will kit you out from top to bottom for £500. Also, we look at a new training initiative based in Sheffield, involving a major manufacturer, the police, a local dealer, and using pupils from local schools.
Now, there's an old saying about what goes around comes around, and it's very true. Eventually, the old, like these Roman ruins here behind me, catches up with the new. What am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about an old name, Sachs, because years ago, if you owned a Sachs, it would have been an engine, because they were famous for making their engines. They made engines for all sorts of people, and really, they were the Rotax of yesteryear. Well, now we've got something a little bit different, because we've gone full circle. We've got a Sachs motorbike, but this time somebody else is making the engine. In this case it's Suzuki, because in this we've got a big thumping single-cylinder 650cc motor which is lifted straight out of a Suzuki Freewind, so you know there's going to be nothing wrong with that. But this combination of Sachs using other people's engines is nothing new really. They've been doing it for a little while now, and there are currently 3 models in the range. There's the XTC125, which is a little sport model. That uses an engine from Yamaha, from the TZR125. There's also a Roadster 125, which is basically the same shape as this. That also uses a Yamaha engine, straight out of a Virago. And still to come, there's an 800cc, which is currently in production, and again, that's going to use a Suzuki engine out of the 800cc Marauder. So there we go, you see, we've got German engineering, Japanese technology. You could probably say we've got the best of both worlds.
The first thing to strike me when I climbed aboard was the excellent riding position. Nice wide bars, which are also fairly high, so you won't have a problem with backache on this machine. The next thing was the superb manoeuvrability. At just 169 kilograms, the low-speed handling is second to none. U-turns on a tight country road are an absolute doddle.
So it's quite different, isn't it, this Sachs? Well, I think it's quite different. In fact, I'm struggling to think of anything that's on the market at the moment that really compares to it very much. CCM springs to mind. They do a big single-cylinder motor, again in a cradle frame like this, but that is more expensive, and that really has got its origins in motocross. This has been made and designed to look like this. It is a true roadster. And as I say, the engine's from a Suzuki. They pinch other parts from everywhere else as well. Brakes on the front are Gramica, Spanish-made. Not quite got the stopping power of your top superbikes, you can't stand it on its nose, but with an engine that only develops about 50 brake horsepower and has a top speed of about 105 miles an hour, you don't really need to stand it on its nose. Coming down to the back here again, retro as I said before, twin shocks, proper twin shocks, all pretty basic stuff. Box section, swing arm, nothing fancy there, but these wheels are definitely worth a mention. German wheels. Look at the width of that rim, 4.5-inch rim there with a 160 tyre, so it makes the tyre, or should I say the rim, just about as wide as the tyre. Looks pretty smart. Coming up to the front end here, retro again as I say, chrome backs on all these, big chrome back headlamp there. Very, very functional, nothing fancy. If it doesn't need it, basically it isn't there. Fuel tank is plastic. Nothing wrong with that. Everyone's making plastic fuel tanks these days. The Triumphs, they've nearly all got plastic fuel tanks. No problem with them. The only trouble is you can't, as we've said before, use a magnetic tank bag, but this really isn't the sort of bike that you want to be touring. It's more you're buzzing around town and getting to work and back type of machine.
In fact, Hartmut Hun, who's the head of development at Sachs, he describes this as an honest, timeless machine. Well, I'd say that's not far off the mark. And for a big 4-stroke single, it's relatively vibration free, even at a sustained 70 miles an hour. But with no wind protection, 50 miles an hour around the lanes is much more realistic.
You know, I think I've took a wrong turning somewhere. It just goes to show that this Sachs 650 is a roadster. Definitely not an off-roadster. Is that corny or what? German engineering then, combined with Japanese technology. That should make a pretty good combination, shouldn't it? Well, I have to say, it's not bad. Not bad at all. Pretty decent bike. not a superbike. It's not meant to be a superbike, and it would be unfair to compare this to your Yamahas, Hondas and Kawasaki's of this world. But I think it fills a hole in the market that, well, it is a big hole at the moment. If you think about it, there's nothing to choose from really in the way of big single-cylinder roadster type machines, unless you think back to the days of Honda's XPR400. But this really, I think, fills a gap. The only thing I'm not sure about is this colour. This is actually called Volvo Aubergine. I don't know who dreamt that one up, but I think it's something better that would be left in the world of four wheels, if you ask me. But bad colour doesn't make it a bad bike. Nice little bike and a nice price as well. Just £4,500, yeah, 4.5 grand will put this roadster on the road.
Well, last time we were in my boardroom here, by the boardroom table, I had a whole load of gear on it that were only £200 worth. No good that, mate. I want to spend a lot more of your hard-earned. I want to spend 500 quid's worth, and that's what I've got here. Yes, and I've got it colour coordinated in blue, because I've always wanted to be in a blue movie. Anyway, right then, we'll start at the top, as we did before, with a lid. This is less than 100 quid, and at that you get a nice paint job, beautifully finished, detachable waterproof liner, washable, beautiful, and ACU approved to gold label. So if you want to do a bit of racing, you can do. All right, that's that. We shall come down a little bit to the jackets. Two different jackets here. This one's Revit, Dutch, and this one is Segura, which is French. Short one, little bomber jacket, detachable liner, zips around here so you can fasten it to a pair of jeans. When you take the liner out and open the zips here, you get a bit of vents coming in, so it's nice and cool in the summer. But it's still 100% waterproof, and that is 150 quid worth. And in the same ballpark area, the Segura is 160, Cordura. It's a longer jacket, perhaps more suited to touring bikes or something like that. And that, again, has all the features you'd expect of it, with covered buttons so it doesn't scratch your tank, zip it open, detachable liner, pocket there to keep your wallet in, but I've emptied that of 500 quid, you've got none left. So we'll move that over and bring you to this, a lift up front helmet. Now this particular one is over £200 worth, and I did say I want to spend around £100 on a helmet. Well, you can do, because nowadays you can buy a lift up front helmet for a touring style bike or even a scooter for commuter use for around £100, and there's loads of different makes. Vemar do them, this is the Nolan X-Lite, MDS produce them, oh, loads of them. Just about everybody now does the lift up front helmet. Boots down at the bottom. Now this particular pair is very stylish. It's got the sliders, so if you're a bit of a scratcher you can get your toe down and replace them with the worn ones with some new ones. If you're really brave, it's got the mirror as well, but I think you've got to be a bit of a Luca Cadalora or even a Carl Fogarty to get right down there. If I scratch that, it's because I fell off. You can now buy this style of boot, a racy style of boot, with a waterproof liner as well, so it complements the rest of the gear. And this particular pair are around £140. The trousers, a lightweight pair of Cordura trousers. And this particular pair by Belstoff are actually called Easy-Ons, which is an appropriate name. I think they're probably designed to go over leather jeans, but there's nothing stopping you wearing them singly like that over perhaps your denims or whatever. And there's pockets to allow you to put some body armour inside there, and that goes in there. So it covers all aspects, and they'll probably roll up and you can stick them under the seat of your bike. Gloves. We were on about gloves last time. It's a minefield of different products that you can get and available to you. This is a Segura pair. It's really, really nice leather. They cost around £40. I've done it in a bit of a grey here to match the grey in the outfit, you know, but you can get every colour you fancy. And that is just about it. I've spent 500 quid. Dead easy, innit? Even easier, I can spend more. And next time, oh, you'll need your bank manager with you and a small mortgage.
And after the break, Richard Hammond gets very excited on an FZR400. And we visit a new type of training scheme in Sheffield.
Small ones are more juicy seems to become a kind of unofficial theme for my summer riding as we continue to look at the fun of sizzling little 400 sports bikes. Now, we've already done the two best sellers, both from Honda, the CBR and the VFR. This week it's Yamaha and the FZR. And it might not be the best of sellers, in fact it's probably amongst the worst of sellers, but it does have some little charms all of its own, and there are some very good reasons for looking at one. First and foremost being that of all of the 400s, it's probably the most flexible. You can actually squeeze an extra few bhp. You can raise it from about 63 to the best part of 70. You can actually get some surprisingly good results just by changing the can, which has already happened on this one, and dynajetting it. The result is, well, quite a nippy thing. Don't forget, when you've only got a few bhp to play with, every extra one makes a big difference. It's often been said that if you were going to race a 400, then okay, the CBRs and VFRs of this world are very good, but an FZR with its extra flexibility and tunability is certainly worth a shout. There's no doubt about it that with its incredibly fast turn and its nimble agility and surprising turn of speed at the high revs, a well-ridden 400 will just absolutely show a clean pair of heels to any good mid-range 600, which is good news for the growing number of people who are going for them. And it's not just the fun of running inside a much larger, more powerful bike either that's in their favour, because there's expense. This G-plate, in pretty decent nick, is up for grabs at about $250, something like that. They may not be the cheapest little bikes to get into, but once you've bought it, there's one massive saving to be made, particularly by younger riders: insurance. Possibly down to as little as half what you'll pay for a 600, which can mean a massive difference. Might mean a few extra quid to spend on getting that nice little race can, getting it dynajetted and making sure you do beat the 600s. Hey, what a surprise, it's another 400 that turns in quicker than you can possibly think about it. Actually, I found the riding position somehow even more cramped than the others. It is slightly different, but when you're this squashed up, the slightest change in angle does make a big difference to your comfort. Once you've settled in though, it is again superb. All the power is right up at the top of the rev range. It sounds glorious and it goes like fury. Perhaps the mid-range could do with a bit of a boost, but then this is, as we've said, the most flexible of the 400s, and I'm sure you can tune your way around that with a bit of work. The handlebars are low, very, very low. The yoke itself dips down and they're clipped on below that onto the fork stanchions, which means you really are hunched over this thing. Do you know, I'm really falling for this whole 400 thing. I'm actually falling in love with the whole idea of them, and I think apart from the performance, it's partly because the smaller the bikes get, the more toy-like they are, the more there's something you really feel you can own, possibly even stick it under your arm and take it home with you if it's going to get wet outside. And also, the smaller they get, the nicer the details, the finishing on little bits and pieces. This FZR might look a bit sharp, a bit brutal, but as you look closer, it's really quite delicate. Mind you, this exposed part of the frame here looks extremely sturdy. It's a real tactile thing with this rough finish on it. You really feel it's holding the bike together and pinning it in at this little waspy waist here. Massive, massive swing arm for such a small wee beastie. Tiny little disc on the back, but up front the brakes are fearsome. I really did have myself risking some nasty damage on the back of the tank first time I tried using those. Two twin pot calipers make absolutely sure that for a bike weighing about as much as a box of matches, you're going to stop very quickly indeed. Nicely shaped little rear indicators as well, tapering back. Surprisingly, don't forget this is a 10-year-old bike. Just looking at it, it really hasn't aged. I really like the FZR. It might be the less popular of the 400s, and it's certainly going to be cheaper than many of the others that we've looked at in the past. But that extra flexibility is the key to it for me. The thing feels race ready. It sits there and says, right, what are you going to do to make me faster? It wouldn't take much to make absolutely sure that on a good country lane, in the hands of even a reasonably competent rider, this little FZR400 will be whipping any 600.
Oh, this is a busy little place, isn't it? Looks like CBT, compulsory basic training, but it isn't quite that. This is the car park of the Sheffield Arena, where we've been many times in the past. World Trials, Supercross, and of course the Sheffield Bike Show. This today is quite different. It's a pilot scheme and it's aimed at youngsters. All these people are pupils from local schools and colleges, some of them only 15 years of age. And the idea, of course, is to promote road safety, but more importantly, to give them some appreciation of what it's like to ride a two-wheeler. And if you want to know how to ride a motorcycle properly, you should watch a policeman, because they've had all the training that you will ever need. And the people responsible for the riding side of this little package are of course the police. So Chris, what is the package? What do these people get when they arrive?
Okay, when they arrive as a group, we take them onto one side and give them the rules and regulations, if you like, because you're always going to have one or two who will think they're a little bit better than they really are. So we bring them all down to ground level, show them a video, which is quite hard hitting. That gets them at a level playing field. We then split them into two groups. Half go onto the simulator just to see how they go on with the fine control such of it. The other half come onto one side and get all the safety clothing on, and we take it really down to basics: how to put a helmet on, how to fasten it, how to put the coats and gloves on, what they do, how the coats are constructed with the armour, etc, etc. Don't take anything for granted at all. We then swap them round, so they've all got all the kit on, all been on the simulator. We then move on to second stage, again in two separate groups. One is on the basic riding course over there, which is just stopping and starting, then going on a nice gentle circle, whilst the other group are in our temporary caravan doing a highway code exam, which shocks them a little bit, and nobody's got 100% either. And we talk them through one or two real life accident scenarios, especially ones with the mopeds and bikes, saying, this is why this happened, this is why this guy got this injury. Then that takes up to halfway points. They've all had a little go on the mopeds, they've all done the highway code theory side of it. We then split them again onto the more intense side, where we've got slaloms, figure of eights, chicanes, circles and such like, really slow control, while the other group are back on the simulator, but that's a quite difficult urban situation which tests the powers of observations and the reactions. So at the end of the day, they've all had a good 40-45 minutes actually in the saddle riding the scooters. They've had a good bit of theory input, they've had to go at a highway code exam, and they've been in the simulator as well.
Well, one of the many people behind this project is this fella here, Chris Hall. Now, Chris, tell us, I mean, what made you even have the inspiration to do a thing like this? Because it took some serious organising.
It has, and basically from my point of view, I'm a motorcycle dealer in Yorkshire that I want to sell scooters, I want to sell small bikes, but in the interim period I've contacted the schools locally. The schools didn't really want to get involved with me personally on a commercial level. I have friends in the police force who are customers of mine, who are friends of mine, who we've got involved. They brought the schools along, and in the interim period, in meetings with the police, with Honda UK and myself, we've hacked up this idea of road safety. There is a motorcycle boom, a scooter boom coming up from down south, coming up north. I have 3 young children myself, one just about ready for a scooter. I want her to be safe. Looking at what we've achieved here is, I think it's brilliant. We'll end up with sales, yes, but we'll also end up with people thinking safety, young people thinking safety, and if we save a life, we've done a real good job, if I say so myself.
So Neil and Tom. Neil, have you been on a bike before today?
No, never before today.
Right.
I've just done driving lessons, but never been on a bike or anything like that before.
Okay. Is this new to you as well, Tom?
Yeah, completely new. I've always fancied it, but never done it before.
And is it what you thought it was, or is it just a good skive off college?
Both. It's good. It's better than I thought it would be.
Yeah. Are you learning lots, Neil?
Yeah, I've never rode a scooter before, so it's learning all controls and driving around and everything. It's good fun as well, yeah.
So will this make you want to be a motorcyclist? Is that, do you want to own a bike one day?
I'd like to own a scooter, yeah, probably.
And you, Neil?
Yeah, definitely on a scooter, definitely, yeah. Just after riding there, just for about 10 minutes.
Now this fella isn't doing a training course at the moment. This is James Tosland, and those enthusiasts in the world of motorcycle racing will know this fella because you're a British superbike racer and you've done world-class stuff as well, James. But what on earth brings you to this? You're not doing your training, surely?
No, I done my CBT about 3 years ago, but yeah, I only live 10 minutes down the road, so you know, I know the boys from the Honda stand here, so I just you know, offered to come down and to help out a bit, and they appreciated it. So you know,
well, I've seen the kids' faces, in particular the girls. You know, they like to see you here, but I've seen the kids' faces, and they're keen to see a world-class racer come along and talk to them, and they're obviously going to take on board what you've got to say because you know your stuff. But just tell us, what do you feel the relationship is between racing a motorbike and riding on the road?
Well, obviously, you know, I mean, they're still at school or in the last year. You know, I'm only a year or two older than them, so they can relate to my kind of age group, and also, you know, they've never ridden a bike before. But riding on the circuit and riding on the road is totally different. Obviously, you've got a lot more obstacles on the road than you have on the circuit. Everything's going the same way on the circuit, you know. at the same speed, so I can do 180 mile an hour on the circuit, and it feels like 60 mile an hour on the road, because everything's going at the same speed. There's loads of runoff. You're not going to hit anything usually unless you're unfortunate, and it's just a lot more safer. I think that's the main thing.
So presumably therefore you don't commute around town on a motorbike then?
No, I haven't done, no. Because of my age, I'm restricted to 33 brake horse or something as well.
Yeah.
So I think that's a 250 or something, but no, it's a different ball game altogether. I went down to Newquay on a 600 once, and that was a 5-hour trip, and my rear end is just about recovered now. That's 2 years after. So,
that put you off, did it? Touring's not your fault. Yeah, you stick to driving a car, right? Yeah, fair
sure.
enough then. Yeah. I'm having a right laugh messing around on these scooters around these cones. It's good fun, but I really shouldn't be doing it without my crash helmet and the appropriate clothing. So I'll go and seek and find some of the right gear, and I'll bring more from Sheffield next week for you. Oi, stop messing about on them motorcycles. I say, stop it. I've always wanted to do that.
On Two Wheels next week, be ready with your checkbook. Wayne is going to spend a whole load of your cash. And there's more from Sheffield, where we'll find out what the girls thought about it. And Wayne gets his riding assessed.